Hello, I'm Matt Williamson. How's it going? Nearing the end of the week here, training camp right around the corner. Might not seem like it, but the Steelers, since we talked last, put out their practice schedule for training camp. So I built this spreadsheet of when I can talk to you guys and when I'll be on the air and when I'm doing the drive and when practices, when I get home, all that good stuff. So starting to feel like football season is my point. It is Mailbag Day. Many of you asked a similar question, and maybe I missed it, but a lot of you guys used the word blindsided. Did Minkah get blindsided by the Steelers with this trade? Maybe somebody out there said that. I don't know, but it's weird that several of you guys phrased it the same way. Here's the short of it. The league's not nice. The league isn't nice. You know, like, but I got fired by the Browns. Everyone on the planet knew it. Butch Davis got fired halfway through the season. We were on interim head coach. They had hired, Romeo Crennel and Phil Savage. I'm like, yeah, we're all getting fired. We're the worst team in the league. But Minkah was not the worst safety in the league. And, maybe he was blindsided. Didn't see this coming. Perfect example, though. Coincidentally, I was watching season 2 last night of the Netflix show Quarterback. And they have Goff, Burrow, and Cousins are the 3 this year. And coincidentally, 2 of them kind of got blindsided. And frankly said on the show, I was blown away when they drafted Penix after giving me a ton of money. I was blown away when I got word from the Rams that I got traded to the Lions. Obviously, Goff and Cousins. They didn't discuss it with those guys. They don't care. They're multi-billion-dollar companies, and they, for the most part, kind of don't care about your feelings. That's not the right way to put it. I can't take that back. But like Goff had no clue that he was getting traded. He basically got a call from McVay saying, hey, we traded you to the Lions. If you saw Moneyball, whenever they teach the kid how to cut guys or how to trade them, just tell them, don't beat around the bush, but we love you and hopefully come back someday, blah, 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 blah. No, this business is tough. So Minkah might have got a text or a call or whatever. Hey, you've been traded. See ya. Pack your bags. Here's a plane ticket. Here's someone will pick you up at the airport in Miami. It's just the way it goes. And I don't think that harbors bad will or makes you a bad organization. It's rough. It's just the way it goes. But I found it odd that a bunch of you asked similar questions about that. My man T-Mac asks, this is going to take a minute to do, but out of the predicted 32 QBs, how many would you take before Aaron Rodgers? Thanks. Love the show. Thank you. I'm going to field this as just for this year, because that's what you have Rodgers for. He's basically said he's going to retire after the year. Like, of course, I would trade him for Drake May or Ward or those guys, even McCarthy, guys like that are unproven because they're young and you build around them. But who would you try to win with this year? Who would you swap Rodgers out, is the way I'm phrasing the question. So I'm going division by division, starting in the East. Allen, yes. May, yes. And you guys might be like, you're crazy. And I understand both sides. I mean, one of them's 1,000,000 years old and one of them's 10 years old. And one of them's super proven and one of them isn't. And Rodgers is a really tough point in his career, too. Like, I mostly say a lot of good things about him. But I can also really see a path where it goes wrong this year, too. I just love Drake May. So, sorry. If you're going to take offense to that, so be it. Fields, no. Tua, yes. But that one's close. And not to get too far in the weeds with this conversation, but if you pick Jalen Hurts over Rodgers, you're not going to run the same offense. You know what I mean? Like, you at least have to give the team some time to scheme and build around the style of quarterback you have. And that's true with Tua, too. Although Tua could run a quick hitting system, and Tua, to me, I would take a chance on for sure. Durability worries me. Go in the division, of course, nobody with the Browns, and of course, Lamar and Burrow. In the South, not Jones or Richardson. Absolutely on Stroud, who I love. Yes on Lawrence, but we could fight about it. I'm still a believer, but that's not a slam dunk. No on Ward for this year. No on Nix for this year, but I think his career is going in a really good way. Yes on Geno. You're probably like, what are you talking about? Geno's way more underrated than people give him credit for, but that's a conversation. Obviously, yes on Herbert. Of course, yes on Mahomes. Let's go to the NFC. Yes on Dak. Yes on Daniels. Yes on Hurts, but I also think Hurts is a little overrated. And if you stuck Rodgers on the Eagles, I still think the Eagles would be a big-time Super Bowl contender. All respect to Russ, nobody on the Giants. No on Caleb Williams, but I could see him being a lot better this year. Yes on Jordan Love. No on McCarthy. Yes on Goff. Go to the South. No on Penix or Cousins. No with any of the Saints dudes. Yes on Baker. I'm not 100% sold, but he's been pretty darn good for a couple years now. No on Bryce Young. That leaves the West. Purdy, yeah. I'm still not 1,000% sold, but yeah. Darnold, no. Stafford, 1,000%. And Kyler Murray might be the hardest one now that I think about it. He's got some flaws and doesn't make as many plays as you think. His deep ball is really falling off. But I think you take Kyler Murray. Yeah. So if you guys want to count them up and tell me how many there were, it's probably 15, something like that, I'm guessing. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. With the baseball season in full swing, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. We keep the dog days of summer rolling with the largest selection of odds on everything. With updated odds on the MLB, UFC, and boxing to tennis and NFL futures, BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, Rob Marcinko asks, what are your thoughts on Teryl Austin and Mike Tomlin for defensive scheme? I'm of the belief that this defense is far too vanilla, high paid, and talented to perform where they have the last couple of years. They're a good defense, but with these resources, they should be elite. And then Joey Bag of Donuts, my man, asks, why do they refuse to move players on the defensive line in OLB? Is this defense too predictable? Joey, if you go back like 2 podcasts, I did an entire podcast on it, and they move their defensive front guys the least in the league, and I think it's time to criticize that. Back to Rob, and these kind of tie together, obviously. It would sound foolish to be like, I don't know if Mike Tomlin is good at defensive stuff. I mean, he's good at it. He has a defensive background. But I also think it's noteworthy that he inherited the LeBeau system. That was not his choice, although I'm sure he inherited it very happily. And his background is basically a lot of Tampa cover 2, that not outdated scheme, but pretty simplistic scheme. And a lot has changed since John Lynch and Brooks and Sapp and Simeon Rice and winning Super Bowls run that scheme. But I think he's been around enough that you could say he's definitely a plus defensive mind, easily. But, and Austin has shown more creativity than you think. But lately it's been rough. Now, here's an example in their favor. Game 1 last year against the Ravens. And really how they've played the Ravens, except for the last 2 games, which were miserable. I mean, the playoff game was poorly coached, poorly executed, everything. But they've been masters against what's maybe the hardest offense in the league to play against. Not because Lamar chokes in the big games against the Steelers. It's because there's a theme against the Ravens. Is if you blitz and play man, that's what gives the Ravens offense and Lamar the most trouble. Like teams in the playoffs did that heavily. They're starting to be a book. That just means he's good against it, not elite, frankly. I mean, because he's awesome. But people were really hesitant to blitz Lamar, like all running quarterbacks, very early in his career. Because if we blitz this guy and play man, all he has to do is make one blitz or miss, and all our man coverage guys have their eyes on their defender, not him. He's going to scramble for 1,000,000 yards. No. That's just not the case. I mean, it sounds like a simplistic answer, but it's not the case. And the Steelers kind of built that blueprint. And I'm going to give Austin and Tomlin, but especially Austin, a lot of credit for that. I think, so let's put it this way. I think this upcoming season will answer this question definitively. I think that's why you traded for Ramsey. I think that's why you were okay dealing Minka, because you're going to play a lot less single high, static, cover three. I think they understand the error in their ways. And some of it was personnel driven. I don't think they trusted other corners to play man and do a variety of schemes. I think we'll see more Fangio, cover four, stuff like that going forward. So the short of the answer is I'm concerned too. I thought this was a problem last year. Don't trade for Dante Jackson if you can't do what you want. There's part of that as well. But I think this year, unless they get destroyed by injuries and don't have guys that can do a variety of things, I think that will answer our question for us. Right or wrong? Jagersberg asks, how much longer could this contract situation for TJ last? I fully expect it to go well into camp. And I don't think anyone will care. I know that sounds crazy. But last time he held out, deep down, I know this for a fact. The team, Tomlin, everybody was quite happy that he wasn't practicing, had no chance of getting hurt, wasn't going to play in a preseason game. He's there doing his own thing, lifting, hanging out, keep him in bubble wrap. Everyone else seems to be a lot more concerned about this than me. And maybe I'm just wrong, but I don't care how long it lasts. I don't wake up every morning checking my phone, hoping for a notification. I assume camp will be when it revs up heavy. And they often do that, which they're not alone doing this, but when it's hot and you've been in camp for 2 weeks and you don't want to be there, you reward a star player or someone that's in a contract dispute, and it lifts spirits, just a human nature type thing. And back to human nature, it doesn't mean they're not having conversations on July 9th when I'm recording this, but everybody's on vacation. It's the only time of the entire year that NFL people try not to overly worry about football. So getting away is good for right now. Last thing I got, Paul asked, should we be worried that Jonnu Smith was a one-year wonder? He had 7 mediocre seasons, many alongside Arthur Smith, and 1 stellar season. Sort of. And I hope I expressed this when he got traded. If you think you're getting 88 catches like he got with the Dolphins last year, you're going to be disappointed. I mean, he's going to be what he has been for the most of his years. And I've done 8 million podcasts on 8 million forums. If you had listened to me 4 years ago, well before I knew Arthur Smith or Jonnu Smith was going to be a Steeler, I've always been a fan. But he's a niche player. He's not Gronk. You know what I mean? He's not Kelsey. I mean, he's a matchup player who's really good after the catch and does a lot of good things with the ball in his hands and can be moved around quite a bit. But I don't think you want him as your fantasy tight end, and probably not Freiermuth at this point either, but that's neither here nor there. I guess it just depends what your expectations are. He's a good football player. I'm happy he's a Steeler. He makes them better. He gives them a lot of versatility. But he might only play 52% of the snaps. And that's okay. Side note, it will bother me if it cuts into Washington. Washington, to me, is like the biggest diamond in the rough on this whole team and needs to be even used more. He is used a lot as a blocker, which is part of the diamond. It's not all about pass catching and fantasy and things like that. But I will bet everything I have that statistically, back of the football card, 2024 will be Jonnu's best season by a long shot over his career. I mean, no question. They needed a third receiver, and he stepped up in a big way. And it shows he's capable. You know what I mean? Like, he can be a featured player. There's not a lot of pass catchers on the planet that can be a featured player in an NFL offense and have that be a pretty successful group. But I think you know exactly what you're buying, I guess is the short answer here too. You're not buying last year's version. You're buying the other part of his career. maybe he's taken us to a slight step forward, but not a massive step forward just last year. So, again, I'm a fan. All right, everyone, that's going to do it. We'll do one more tomorrow, and that's a wrap.